Good evening, and welcome to The Caring View, the online health and social care platform aiming to elevate, educate, and celebrate all things social care. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us on YouTube, tap that bell. You'll get notified every single time we upload a video or go live. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. I'm still not used to saying that. Mark, this evening. Oh, no, I will mention, actually. It's just Mark and I tonight. So, Mark, how are you?
Yes, not too bad. I was trying to work out the last time that it was just the both of us, and it must have been a hell of a long time ago.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. So, just a reminder to absolutely everybody who is tuning in tonight, Mark and I do everything that the Caring View offers out to the health and social care sector for free. All of our resources, all of our podcasts, all of our chat shows are absolutely free to access. We can only do this through the sponsorship that we receive from really generous people around the sector. And we've had some great sponsors over the years. And we also have a supplier list now where people are submitting to be suppliers on our website. We get thousands of hits on our website each month. And those people are really helping us keep the lights on, keep the wheels turning and the engine greased. And I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has helped us so far. With that, we have tonight's episode. We've just finished series 3 of our podcast, which is all around completing the DSPT. You can catch that on Spotify and all major podcasting sites. But if you go to www.thecaringview.co.uk, all of our stuff is found on there. It's our home of everything. Our podcast, our chat show, all of our free resources, and now a brand new dedicated page all around the CQC framework. Now, our usual way of downloading documents is through a store. You put them into your cart, you check out, it doesn't cost you anything, you get them all for free. What we've done with the CQC framework, because it's one of our most asked after resources and support tools, is we've put everything on one page. You can just click and download directly from that page. And we're going to go through some of the resources tonight that we've got on there. And tonight we're just talking the framework. We're just talking the framework. What the hell's going on? What's changed? What's the same? What do we need to do to prepare? Some top tips and questions. Get your questions into us and we'll try our hardest to answer them. Both Mark and I are still in social care positions, quite senior social care positions, and I'm in a quality role. So the CQC framework is something we're both heavily invested in. And yes, we can help with your questions, but actually we can learn from you as well. So if you've got concerns, top tips, questions, pop them into that chat, and we will do our best to answer them as we go along. So with that, Mark, the CQC framework.
Yes, it's all very exciting. I kind of like the new framework. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time with you going through kind of the website and pulling bits and pieces together to put together some tools that, like Adam said, you can find on our website. I actually like that they've got rid of the million Chloes and they've actually separated it into the quality statements. And I think it actually sets it out a lot nicer. I think my only feedback is there's nothing around training, which does surprise me. So there's no governance still on that, which is worrying. I think it's worried me for a long time. And there's nothing yet around the well-led from the I statements, which surprises me again from staff's point of view, for our frontline staff, that there's no kind of expectation from the provider at the moment. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I'm excited with reservations. I think we've with anything, with any change, there's always going to be that slight hesitation and that concern that, are we either oversimplifying something? Are we overcomplicating something? I think the problem we've had with the rollout of this framework is we've had too many false starts. And I think we've been given so many times that, it's coming, it's going to come in the last end of this year, it's going to be coming in for April, it's going to be coming in for October, it's going to be coming in for the beginning of next year. We've had a lot of uncertainty around when it's coming. And I think for myself, as well as providers, it's provided us with this uncertainty. It is uncertainty around what's going on with our inspections. I come from Lancashire, and I think it's around 50% of providers in Lancashire haven't been inspected for the last 5 years. And again, that's partly a risk-based approach, and we get that. It's partly because they've not got the staff to be able to do so. And I think that's affecting the morale of social care as a whole, because there's so many providers out there doing such wonderful things and such amazing things in social care, but they're not getting inspected to show them off. So I'm really hopeful that this new approach to regulation of social care, and well, it's everything, isn't it? It's health and social care. This whole new approach is going to change that, and actually we can get people excited about jazzing up and sexifying care again. And I think I'm trying to be hopeful. I'm a glass half full person. Every day's a learning day, no matter what's thrown at you. Every day's a learning day, and I think that sets us quite easily into the first part of what we want to talk about tonight and what is changing. You know, we've had so much information out there around the new single assessment framework. Let's take a minute and actually understand what's changing and what's going to be different to the way things are managed at the moment. Mark, what's changing?
Yes, so just before I dive in, I just want to reassure everybody that it's kind of still a very new, we're still learning from the CQC as well. Everything that Adam and I talked tonight, we've put together, I'm sure many of you have already got the first edition of the guide that was created. We have updated it with information from the CQC and key people. So this will be available on our website by the end of the week. It's got a lot of infographics on it. It's got a lot of information and data and stats and around kind of everything we're going to talk about tonight. So do keep an eye, and we will make sure that we pop that on our socials. So the key changes are that the CQC realised when the pandemic hit that actually they couldn't get all the information and the data that they actually wanted from providers, and it wasn't, you know, streamlined. They had different processes for social care, different processes for GPs, for dentists, and they wanted something that was less complex and more efficient. And they wanted something that they could utilize data, whereas obviously at the moment, some of us are paper-based, some of us are using digital systems. And they identified that actually the ratings weren't clear for providers themselves that were obviously contesting the outcome that they had, but also for people looking for care. So one of the big changes is actually that our ratings are going to be benchmarked at a national and a local level, which is something I really like the idea of. There's going to be the new single assessment framework. So actually there's one framework for social care, for GPs, for dentists. We'll have the new portal, so you'll be able to do that right from the start if you're registering for a service, if you're changing your details, your statement of purpose, your next of kin. And it's also going to allow you to give rights to people within your organisation, which is something very new that actually as a registered manager, I remember when I was, you never had it. You're on call 24/7, even if you weren't on paper. And actually, if you're going to be able to go on holiday and around work-life balance, and actually you can allocate that to somebody within your organisation, your deputy or somebody else that you trust to be able to take that for you, which I think is a big step. And obviously they're getting rid of the Chloe's, replacing them with the quality statements, which we'll talk about tonight. They're bringing in I-we statements. And again, we'll talk about that later. Anything I've missed, Adam?
I think the main thing that we need to be aware of as social care providers now is the way they collect the evidence is changing. So we've got 6 evidence categories. Those evidence categories, we're still none the wiser really of how they're going to go down the route of collecting that information. But we're really looking at things like people's experiences, feedbacks from staff and leaders, feedback from partners, observations. Now, observation is your inspection, and that makes up a portion of how they're going to regulate and providers are scoring processes and outcomes. And I'm led to believe that each one's going to be equal contributors to our overall rating. So it's no longer going to be just your PIR, and then this massive inspection when people come around. They're actually really going to delve into working with everyone who our services are in, all stakeholders, to get that information and to formulate that opinion. And part of how they're going to do this is with some live scoring. So we're going to get scored. I think it's 1 to 4, 4 for being, you know, absolutely the bee's knees, 1 for being, you know, not so great at all. And those scores will update live. Now, they're not going to go live alongside the framework, as far as I'm aware. I don't know whether you've heard different, Mark, but eventually they will show up on the CQC website. So when people are looking at, you know, how safe is your organization, they will be able to see a score of how well you are in that safe. I think part of that's come around because we still are keeping the 4 rating categories: outstanding, good, requires improvement, inadequate. I am disappointed in this. I think we should have had a more less ambiguous rating system. I was hoping to see something like good with some areas of improvement, requires improvement, but almost good. I think that's a really good morale boost. I think it gives us a good carrot to chase to get better. And I also think it's a good indicator for people looking for services. But this new scoring system, even if we're requires improvement, should allow people to see actually we requires improvement, but we're doing this well, a possible score of this, and this is actually what we're receiving. So it's those evidence categories that we need to focus on now as providers moving forwards. How are we collecting that evidence? What routes do we think people are going to go down to collect this evidence? And how are we going to ensure that the evidence that they're collecting is right? So once upon a day, we used to have a folder where you'd shove everything in and CQC would come around and you'd force feed it them as soon as they came through the door. Look at how good we are. It's going to be different to that now. And actually, it's about using tools. And some of these tools are on our website of how we break down those quality statements and go, right, this is how I can evidence that I'm meeting this quality statement, and or how we're meeting this quality statement. When it comes to feedback from people who use our services, maybe we should be rearranging. In fact, spoilers, let's not get into that. We can do that on how we're talking about getting prepared, can't we? So stay tuned and we'll talk about ways in which we can do this. But yeah, for me, it's those evidence categories that are changing the most. I'm glad to see the back end of the Chloe's. I will say that the quality statements are very much the Chloe's condensed. And I still think it's useful for us to have those Chloe's for now, whilst we're going through this transition, to help us, remind us, should I say, of what things we should be doing and how we can evidence the things that we're doing. But I do think it's a smart move moving towards these quality statements. It's going to make it easier to digest and easier to focus on. And I love that TLAP have been involved in creating the we and I statements. I think it's great to show that co-production of people with lived experience, which is something CQC are literally hot on at the moment.
No, definitely. While you were there, I was just looking in the background. I know they're not all on the website. We've got about 17, 18 different documents that we're going to be putting up on the website across the next couple of weeks. All of them we've double checked against kind of what CQC have told us. And I think that's one thing I really want to be mindful of is when I was looking at this and I was using the CQC website and kind of what was out there already, there was so much information that actually wasn't factually correct, which really worried me that it was kind of in the public domain and so easily to get hold of. Simple things like the quality statements, people have put them into documentation, but actually have missed one or two off. So please do be careful what you're downloading. And it's also safe to say that obviously if it's a moving game, the CQC have said that things are still adapting, things are still changing. So we'll make sure that we adapt our guidance and bits and pieces. And I would always urge you to go back to the CQC website. So you might download the tools from us or from somebody else, but actually always go back to their website because that's where it's going to be 100% factual. We've got a couple of questions that I'm going to bring in a second. Before I do, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things you spoke about, Adam, the PIR. So we know that that's staying, and we know that the PIR, the CQC has said that they really find that a benefit to all services. You spoke there about the benchmarking and that kind of the scoring of 1 to 4. What I really hope in the future is that you'll be able to click into, say, the SAFE question, and then you'll be able to go through all of those quality statements and actually see, oh, actually, we were doing really well in this compared to the care home down the road, but we weren't doing so great here. And also from somebody looking for care, you know, I've had to look for care for loved ones, and it is really hard because we have that social care perception, but then we're also kind of looking at reports. And I think hopefully going forward, that might change some of that so you can really dive that down. And actually if sustainability is something that you're really passionate about for your loved one, you can make sure the service is doing that great. Or if you're a staff member looking for a job, you can look at actually the workforce wellbeing. So let's bring in these questions. So
should we go, just while we're on the scoring, should we go to ZMAC first?
Yep, can do. Here we go. So if you score 1 in one of the domains for one quality statement, is it correct that you automatically gives a required improvement for that domain?
So yes. So if you get, so the scores range from 4, 3 to 1. So if you for an overall quality statement score a 1, the highest your rating can possibly be is requires improvement, as far as I'm aware. Now I don't think. No, yeah, no, I think that's the case. I think there is some information on CQC's website for this, and I'll try and find it and pop it into the chat into the background. But I'm pretty sure that if you get a score of 1 for the quality statements in one category, the highest you can get is a requires improvement. And I think I'm going to have to double check this, but I think if you're outstanding, or if you're looking in the outstanding range, if you get 1 or more 1 or 2s in your quality statements, the highest you can possibly get is a good. So don't hold me to that, ZMac. I will find out, and we will put it into the chat, hopefully, if we can find it in the background whilst we do this. We don't have a guest today, though, so it's harder for us to do the background stuff whilst talking. I'm not a very good multitasker. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I think the highest you can get is a requires improvement if you're looking in the good domains for those quality statements. Mark, have you heard different?
So I've just pinged you something in the background. So Adam does all the technical bits. I just find them and ping them to him. So it's really interesting. So originally they did say that actually if it's a 1, you'll get a requires improvement. Then they released this kind of scoring and percentage mechanism that I found, but it's kind of deep buried in the Citizen Lab on the CQC website. So for anybody that doesn't know what the Citizen Lab is, I highly recommend that you type into Google Citizen Lab CQC. So it's somewhere that they post ideas and they get feedback from care providers, from people that draw on social care, relatives, and they use that feedback to inform what it's going to look like as the end result. So this scoring. So if we look at the quality statement of SAFE, for example, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 we statements within it, and you can score 1 to 4 out of all of them. It will then give you an aggregated percentage, which is really interesting. Now, I've only managed to find the percentage ratings on the Home Care Association website. So they've predicted, or they've said, that 25 to 38% is inadequate. If you score 39% to 62%, you requires improvement. 63 to 87% is good, and anything over 87% is outstanding. So in that version 2 guide that will be coming out this week, I've popped that in there. And it's interesting when you play around with the scores and bits and pieces, how hard it is to get outstanding. Now, whether this is actually going to come to life when they actually start using the inspection model. Oh yeah, here it is on as an example. Whether they use this, I don't know. Because they've also said that the quality statements are all benchmarked at good. But we will see. I mean, I do quite like this. And here's why I hope that actually in the future, you'll be able to go into that for this one here, the effective. You'll be able to dive in and you could actually say, oh, actually, do they support people to live healthier lives? Oh, they've scored 3 there. And then you can really kind of tailor it down. But it'll be interesting to see. And I think this is one thing that they haven't confirmed themselves yet, how they're doing the scoring. And I think they've been very open that actually they're still accepting a lot of feedback from providers on this. So if you join any of their kind of webinars, they're always looking for feedback after. So I think if there are...
So Tina's just come back in on this, Mark. Sorry, Tina's just come back in on this. And I think this is what I'd read on the website from CQC. So the good range, but if there's a score of 1 for 1 or more quality statement scores, the rating is limited to requires improvement, and the outstanding range. But if there is a score of 1 or 2 for more or 1 quality statement scores, the rating is limited to good. I sort of understand that. It's worded quite odd. ZMac, I think that's the case. I think it's going to be a wait and see. So it's November 21st that it's rolling out in the Southeast. And I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned. I'm really excited and quite happy because I'm a northerner, so I get it, last in comparison to some of the country. So hopefully by the time it comes up here, brilliant. We'll have learned everything, and CQC will be like experts at it. But I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned coming out after November 21st, and I think we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I'm going to be interested to see the first lot of scorings that come through from it as well, because I know it's taken ages at the moment to get these feedback reports through. So, you know, you're getting your inspections, and sometimes it's like 3-4 months until you get your factual accuracy checks through, which is taken a long time. So it's going to be interesting to see whether this speeds it up or not.
No, definitely. We've had another question about whether this will be available to watch back. It will. So all of our shows are available to watch back after. They can be found on YouTube. You just type in The Caring View. There's also links from our website to our YouTube page. So yes, they all will be available to watch.
Have we anything else in the chat?
Tina's asked a question around usual ways of collecting experience from people, but I thought we'd leave that until later when we kind of dive into that bit. And also has asked, how confident are people feeling ahead of the new portal to show how service is using quality enhancements? I ran a poll Monday, Tuesday on social media, and I think at the moment it's very much people are not confident with the new ways of working. And I think the CQC from their last webinar realised that actually they need to do more work to make sure that people truly understand it moving forward.
And I suppose this is where some of the concerns come, because there is so much change happening that realistically, we're probably best off rolling out the whole change all at once so that people can utilise and see how it all works together. Drip feeding it and doing little bits here and there is actually quite confusing when it doesn't marry up and match up. So, yeah, I can say, Tina, that I'm probably not as confident as I should be on the new portal. So homework for me. Mark, what's changing? Are we done? Should we stay on? Should we go on to what's staying the same?
Yeah, I think we should go on to what's staying the same, because I think we've kind of touched around it. And yeah, when this version 2 guide is on the website, I think it breaks it down really clearly with links and bits and pieces.
So we've already mentioned one thing that's staying the same, and that's the rating categories. They're not changing. So you're either going to be outstanding, good, requires improvement, or inadequate. You know, constant change is difficult sometimes. So having something stay at a constant, you know, maybe it's fine, maybe it's good, maybe they'll review it in the future. I know a lot of the feedback I've heard is around the rating categories and how people wanted those to change. But that's one thing that's staying the same. What else? Oh, your PIR. Your PIR is still going to remain and is still going to be part of the evidential collection for your rating. So don't just give up on the PIR. We have got our PIR podcast. It's 6 episodes long. We go through each section of the PIR, break it down, hold your hand all the way through it. If the PIR does change with the new framework, we will record the podcast again and we will go through the new PIR to provide you that support going through it. But I think we've had about 3,000 people listen to that podcast now. And I meet managers at the care show going, oh my God, I've done my PR because your podcast has helped me and it's made it so easy. You get an email saying this should take you 7 hours to complete. And I don't know where they get their time management from. 7 hours is, if you're lucky. You know, you want to try and put as much as you can into it and to show off as much as you can. So we really break that down to help you, but your PIR is remaining. Anything else staying the same, Mark?
In terms of the new framework, not really. I think they have said that there shouldn't be much of a crossover between the evidence that you have for Chloe's compared to what you have for the quality statements. And if anything, the quality statements should be able to break it down easier so you're not kind of duplicating. I think for me, if you're paper-based, there's going to be a lot of expectation to provide a lot of data. And I do worry, I kind of look back to the service I was in during COVID that was paper-based and actually how we would have coped with this big change right now going through. So I think if you're not currently digital, there's a lot of funding. And I'm not saying that to push people into going digital because it has to be right for your service. But definitely look at that. And obviously you're going to be going through that digital transformation journey at the same time as the CQC framework changes, and it's going to be a lot for your staff. I think in terms of what's staying the same, hopefully you're informing your staff of the CQC and breaking down that kind of stigma of the inspection. You're involving people in their care and support. You're gathering feedback. So day to day, what your frontline staff are doing, what your teams are doing shouldn't change at all. It's just going to be actually formulating the evidence collecting under the new quality statements. It will be annoying for people that have put together big folders or folders for safe, effective, well-led, and so on, because actually you're going to have to take them all apart. But I do hope that actually it'll be a lot easier kind of once you've done it.
Yeah, and I think one thing we need to remind ourselves of as social care providers is we know what to do. The way we provide care is not going to change. The way we support people is not going to change. The way we lead our teams is not going to change. The way we conduct ourselves with people is not going to change. So for me, I really just want this to be a bit of a PSA and basically say, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing amazing jobs. You've joined up tonight to listen because you want to learn more and you want to do more. Just keep learning, keep growing, keep doing what you're doing. We may just need to adapt how we showcase our evidence. And we'll get into that on how we get prepared and things and top tips around how we work forward. Now, we have, and this is around staying the same, so I'm going to bring it in here as well. So this is from Eddie, and she said, really great chat, thanks. Do you think we need to focus on the regulations that are registered with whilst all these changes happen? I categorically, yes. That's one thing that is not changing is the regulations. And I think it's always best practice for us to have those regulations at the tip of our tongue. So a lot of the documents that we've got on our website around the key quality statements, our gap analysis tools, we have actually linked all the regulations that are relevant to each section to those parts of the quality statements. So actually, even if those quality statements and that new framework's not in your area, you've got an idea of what the regulations are that you're going to be inspected against and regulated against. So yes, definitely keep on top of those regulations, keep them at the forefront, because at the end of the day, whatever they call the framework, however they structure the framework, the regulations are constant and they will not change. And however they regulate us in the future, chances are it's going to be against those regulations. So yes, definitely keep focused on those regulations. Would you agree, Mark?
No, 100%. And I think it's important to remember nothing's changing until the 21st of November. So don't take your eye off the ball of what you're currently doing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket only to be inspected next week and kind of fail because you've not kind of prepped. Keep your eye on the ball. Kind of implement this slowly. Maybe dedicate a couple of hours a week to it so you can kind of really get to grips of what's changing. Get to grips with those quality statements and kind of do it slowly. Don't kind of dive all in. Don't get off this kind of webinar and tomorrow think, right, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to do that. Like, just take it all in and do it slowly. Because even the CQC has said that actually they're going to roll it out to the south. They're going to do lessons learned, and then they might adapt before they go to the next region. So you might spend hours and hours and hours on it, only for it to kind of change slightly before it gets to your region.
No,
you obviously need to be a bit more prepared. But...
if you're in the southeast, I'm so sorry. Tell us how it goes. No, I agree, Mark. And I think, have we got a tool where we've compared the Chloe's to the quality statements? If not, we'll put one together, which will help you. Have we?
We haven't. Now, the only reason I haven't done that is because the CQC has said that they've had a lot of people requesting this, and it's something that they're looking into. And I thought, well, actually, if the regulator's going to put one together, we might as well wait for theirs to come. So,
all right. Well, I mean, definitely, and like you say, things are changing on an ever fluid basis. So let's just wait and see. So for anyone who's just joining us, because I've seen a few comments in the chat, you can get everything from the www.thecaringview.co.uk. All of our resources are on there, and a lot of the stuff that we're discussing tonight is on there as well. And if it's not on there yet, it will be this week. Just a reminder, Mark and I do this in our spare time. We're gluttons for punishment. We both work full-time jobs, and we're trying to do this in the spare minutes that we do have. So I promise you more resources will be coming onto our CQC page as the week goes on. So please do keep checking it out. So PIR remaining, the way we provide care remaining, the rating categories remaining, inspectors remaining. I suppose the only thing that we didn't mention at the beginning is, and I'm going to call them SPAs, but I don't know whether CQC are going to call them SPAs because it's capital S, capital P, lower, I don't know, SPAs. It's an anagram, something assessors. And they're going to form part of the team with our inspectors as well. They will be coming out. Inspectors will be coming out. I'm not entirely sure myself, and I don't think CQC are fully sure themselves of how this is going to work. But chances are it might not just be your inspector that you see. It might be an assessor that comes out and that you see that forms part of this observation evidence collection process. So I would still say keep nurturing your relationships with your nominated CQC inspector. I think it's always a great plan, and it's always great to do. They may start using communications from yourself as part of their evidence sort of collection. They may use it as part of the sort of, oh, I'm reassured here, but I'm going to still look when I come down. And it also allows us to have that candid conversation going on. It takes away that fear of them just showing up on the doorstep and us not knowing them. I just don't know how that's going to work with the assessors myself. Are you any more knowledgeable on the assessors side of things, Mark?
No, it'll be interesting to see once they've kind of done the pilot in the south what that looks like, because what they've said is that they're going to identify the services that they're going to inspect first. But I think there's such a backlog already. Actually, are they going to wipe that backlog and start again, or are they going to try and clear that backlog? I think they're still recruiting, aren't they, into those inspector roles, into those lead roles. But yeah, it'll be interesting times to kind of monitor. And I think it's safe to say, actually, if you're currently outstanding or good, it might be that you don't actually have a face-to-face. It could be an off-site visit where they're just collecting data, or it might be that they're actually collecting data from your GP or the district nurses or your local authority, from Google reviews, from your Facebook reviews, if you use carehome.co.uk. So they're going to utilize the data that is freely available on the internet. So I think your ratings could change without actually having inspection. So I think one thing we do need to take away, and it is something we should all be doing, is actually engaging positively with those around us, those multidisciplinary teams, just to have those kind of collaborative working relationships. And I think one thing, it might be that you've had a named inspector and you're very lucky if you have, and that might disappear. But I think one thing we shouldn't stop doing is actually updating the CQC with what we're doing. So I know, Adam, you and I have spoken in the past about doing a weekly or a fortnightly email to your inspector, letting them know what's gone well, what hasn't gone so well, what lessons learned, anything that's had a significant impact on the service or the people you're supporting or your teams. And I think that shouldn't change. I don't think we should stop that. And even if you lose your named inspector, you should still be sending that through to the inquiry's email address. Obviously, make sure that it hasn't got any identifiable data on it. But yeah, because they'll still link that with your service in the background. So you might not necessarily get a reply like you might at the moment, but they'll definitely still link it. So when it comes to your inspection, they're still going to have all of that data freely available to them.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to, whilst we're talking, pull up the quality statement. Should we have a look at them? And should we have a look at what they're going to be? Now, thank you, Mark, for this. It's all in one page, which absolutely helps us here. So we've got...
I'll move the top of the screen so you can see it.
Yeah, so we can read it. So we've obviously got the 5 domains: safe, caring, responsive, effective, and well-led. Now, my math's terrible. We're around 33 quality statements, is it? Or something like that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So definitely a lot less than the 35. Definitely
Yeah.
a lot less than the 100 plus Chloe's that we'd originally had. So under safe, we've got learning culture, safe systems, pathways and transitions, safeguarding, involving people to manage risks, safe environments, safe and effective staffing, infection prevention and control, and medicines optimization. And it's worth reminding everyone at this moment that actually these are the same areas and domains that everyone is being inspected against. Be that health, be that your GP surgery, your ICB, because they're going to get inspected now, your local authorities, because they're going to get inspected now. So all of these quality statements are going to apply to everyone. So it's really good for us. So let's choose safeguarding for an example. You're putting your safeguardings in. Let's just use safeguarding as safeguarding submissions as this example. It's taking ages for these safeguardings to get acted on. Your local safeguarding board's not gotten involved, or they're taking too long to respond. It's always good practice to have a register so that you've said, I've submitted it on this date and I've chased it up on this date, this date, this date, this date, and this date. because moving forwards, that evidence might be used towards an evidentiary collection for the local authority, for example. It's covered your back because you've said, I've done everything that I can possibly do in this situation. But just doing that as good practice is great. Doing that and saying, but my local authority is not supporting me as much as they should be doing. CQC have that power now. And that's not me saying go all gung-ho against the local authorities. We need them, and most of them do amazing work. But it's just about protecting ourselves and, you know, I'll put intended, safeguarding ourselves from any sort of blowback. I think the safe categories are all quite self-explanatory. I don't think there's anything there that we wouldn't have expected to be there, Mark.
No, I don't think so. I think the only thing I would have thought kind of under either the effective or the well-led would have been that training element, but otherwise, no, I think everything else is there. I think it's nice to see that actually they've put in about the workforce around kind of well-being in there. Obviously, sustainability is a big topic at the moment, so it's nice to see actually they're going to be looking at actually our sustainable practices. We are creating at the moment a sustainability guide with a couple of other people in the sector that are a lot more knowledgeable and skilled in that, but that should be coming before Christmas. So again, do keep an eye out for that. We've had a lot of feedback from people as well about that being an easy read. So that will be available as an easy read version too.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing I would probably touch on around the safe is the learning culture. So I just don't want people getting confused and thinking, well, you know, everyone goes on training and this and that and this and that. I think learning culture under your safe, that's your lessons learned. How are you documenting that? How are you evidencing that? You know, even the simplest of things, something that you might not even think you're at fault on. How have you learned from that? What processes have you put in place? What's the impact been on the people that you're supporting? So learning culture in your safe is all around, actually, as an organization, how are you learning from things that are going on to improve the services you're providing and to keep everyone safe? Because we've also got the learning side in the well-led, you know, your learning, your improvement and your innovation. That learning, you really need to be evidencing how you're supporting your team to grow. What's your idea around succession planning? How are you promoting learning and growth within appraisals or supervisions? Are people on individual learning plans? How are you promoting the training, managing your training? What's the quality of your training? Are you measuring the impact of the training? Where are your observations around training? So someone's done a training course, great. How have you observed to actually understand that they've comprehended what that training course has given them? And how are they implementing that into their daily role? So it'd be really good just to sit down with these quality statements and just start thinking to yourself, before even looking at any of our gap analysis tools, and thinking how this relates to your service and what your service does around these areas. And then building out from this. Think of it as a basic audit process. You know, you do an audit to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but it's a learning process. You know, it highlights things that you might not currently be doing that you should be doing, and you've picked it up then. So just going and sitting down with these quality statements, if you're in the north, you've got longer to do this, and really sort of mapping out and planning out your evidentiary process and just benchmarking yourself. You know, have we got a really good sort of learning, improvement and innovation culture within the organization? We could probably do better. What could we do? Go and have a look. Go and get some things implemented and use this to really sort of give you that direction moving forwards. But I think they're easy enough. I think they're quite good in my opinion. And I think the quality statements that go alongside them, the we statements, really provide that bit of meat and sustenance to them, doesn't it?
No, absolutely. And I was just having a look in the background at what's not available on the website yet, and some things that are available. Sorry, I've got so many windows open. So available on our website at the moment, we've got each of the key questions in the quality statement. So it breaks it down. There's one per key question. It has each of the individual parts, what the expectation is from the CQC, the I statements that go alongside it, and then it's linked to the related regulations. The CQC, some of them, they do have other regulations to consider, so they're included. We've also included where it's applicable, the ones that are relevant to the local authority, because I think we haven't really dived into local authority in any of the documentation really that we've put together or the guide. But actually, if you go on the CQC website and start having a kind of a nosy around that local authority section, there is so much more information on theirs around kind of what potentially ours might end up looking like. I actually found it really informative, a lot more kind of best practice. So we know that the CQC are going to be putting together benchmarks of kind of national, where we have national data. So it might be actually best guidance around sustainability and what that target should look like for organisations, regardless of sectors. And local authority, they've started putting together those guides already. So definitely go and check them out.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, Adam, you spent time putting together the gap analysis template. And again, there's one for each of the quality statements linked to the regulated or the related regulations. It's got your current situation. So what are the people's experience, the feedback from your staff, and then where there's gaps and any required remedies. And I think it's a toolkit that you could start using now. So when I said actually don't dive straight in, but just maybe dedicate like an hour or two a week, it could be that you just do one of these per week and actually really spend time with your team working out, this is what we're doing, this is what we should be doing, where are we at with this, involving kind of relatives and the people you support. And again, I think it would be a really good way of having those conversations with relatives of actually, this is what's changing, this is what we're doing, and that reassurance that actually you're kind of keeping up to date. We have been very kindly sent some documentation from virtual administration. So one of the documents that's not currently on the website that will be going up is around evidence collecting. So I know Tina mentioned this earlier. So Tracy at Virtual Administration has very kindly put together almost like the folders that people would have had, but obviously everything's going digital. So what you can have on your computer, so it breaks it down under each one. So for SAFE, for example, you've got your data sharing evidence, your DBS checks, your GDPR, handovers, infection control. So actually you can start kind of piecing together evidence. And if you've got those folders for the Chloes, actually you can start mapping them into those quality statements.
Oh, definitely. Now, so Tina's come in and said around the SAFE, and that was a statement which is around, we make sure that there are enough qualified, skilled and experienced people who receive effective support, supervision and development. They work together effectively to provide safe care that meets people's individual needs. So a link to training and application. And I suppose around this statement as well is the mythical workforce dependency tool. Now, for my organization, I've worked really hard and put together a tool, and it's still a work in progress. There's nothing out there really which is a sort of copy and paste, lift and go, ready for organizations. What I would be saying is really focusing now on not only calculating how many care hours your service needs to provide, but actually what are the needs of the people you're supporting and how do you match that with the skill set of your team? So I know rotas are a minefield. It's like playing Sudoku, and trying to get them to work can be very difficult. And just to add another layer of difficulty to that, when we do our rotas, start thinking about how you evidence how you put that team together on the day. So this person is really good at this thing, and this person's really good at this thing, and this is this person's strength, and this is this person's strength. And actually, this is how we're meeting the needs of all of our residents or our clients, our service users, whatever we call them, the people we support on one day. There's no point having 5 people on a day that are really, really good at activities and life enhancement when some of your residents might need some really sort of quiet, compassionate support, conversation, that really sort of personal stuff. So look at what your people's needs are, behaviors that present as challenging, who in your team are best suited to meet those people's needs. People have gender preferences, people have cultural preferences. How are you including that into the way you build your rotas? Start evidencing that on your workforce planning, and you'll start aiming to sort of get a really, really good rating around that quality statement. I think it's just something to keep in mind of now when we do things is, how are we evidencing this? How have I evidenced this on my rota? I know how many people I've got to support today, but how am I evidencing that we've got the team and the skills and the workforce there to support them? And actually, am I supporting my team? When was the last time we did appraisals? What's my supervision like? Does my supervision start with, this is what you've not done great and this is what you've done good? Or does your supervision start with, tell me how you think you're doing? Tell me what you need. Tell me whether we're aiming towards or working towards the goals that you've set. Then let's talk about what I think you're doing great. Let's talk about where we might need to improve. And let's finish on a really positive action plan for your growth and development. Because if it's the latter, you're doing it great. If it's the former, I'd say let's start thinking about our supervisions and appraisal processes. Have we got any other things in the comments, Mark, before we move forwards?
Let's have a look. We've got a question here around many companies are between registered managers because of staff shortages. Can I ask how this impacts a company when they are inspected under the well-led section?
I suppose this is one of the things that's not changing. You need a registered manager, and I know that's hard to hear, and I know that's very difficult. After 28 days, you need to be submitting a notification to CQC to basically say that you're just not able to meet the needs as you normally would do. You don't have a registered manager in post. I suppose for me, this is more around prevention rather than reaction. And I'd be looking at succession planning with an organization. I know it's incredibly hard to get registered managers. I know it's incredibly hard to keep people in posts. I know it's incredibly hard to be a registered manager. Been there, done that, worn the t-shirt, can't go back at this moment in time. I applaud everyone who is a registered manager at this moment in time. But I'd be looking at how can I develop my team to a point where one day someone could take over a registered manager post. That's not, oh, you're great at being a carer, become a manager. How are we putting in like a 3-4 year plan so that if our registered manager does decide to disappear, we've got someone trained and ready to go. And even if that person's trained and ready to go and we've not got a registered manager post available, they could actually be a registered manager for someone else. And we'll lose a team member, but we'll help another organization. And that's my idea around succession planning and what we need to be doing. In regards to how CQC are going to see this, I think they're going to see this how they would always see this, be it with the Chloe framework or with the single assessment framework. And I don't think their stance is going to change on this. Mark, do you have a different opinion?
No, I don't. I think they're going to be more worried about the impact to your teams and the people you support and how, as an organisation, actually you mitigate those risks. Yes. And I think actually you might get away with not having a registered manager for a while. Actually, if you're the nominated individual or you've got somebody that can step up, maybe the deputy manager that might not have the qualification, might not want to be the registered manager, but can just take the service by the reins. I think my advice would be to, if you've got a named inspector, and again, if you haven't used that inquiries email, is just update them on a weekly, fortnightly basis of what you're doing to try and employ a new registered manager, what methods you've got to mitigate any risks, anything that you've done that's worked really well. And if you've had something actually that hasn't gone so well, be open and transparent about that. There's nothing worse than lying. If you put an advert out and you've had no applicants, tell the CQC inspector that you've had no applicants. But network around as well. Use the kind of the Facebook groups, the forums there are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and just see deep dive onto Indeed at what job adverts are kind of going in the local area for registered managers, and are you competitive? I think you touched there on succession planning, Adam, which I think is a really good point. We do have a show on the 12th of December around succession planning, following the care show, which was a really good conversation. We've had a comment from Tina around in-safe and effective staff. It states, we make sure there are enough qualified, skilled and
We've done it, babes.
I've done that one?
Oh, yeah, we've done that one. There's too many comments tonight to keep up with.
Oh, I know. There are loads coming in as we talk. No, I don't think so. Just thank you so much for your reply. Very useful. I think if you've got any questions following this, please do reach out to us. So we do have on our website, there is the contact buttons, which will come through. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn is probably the best one. I don't think the Caring View has a message. Go on, Adam.
No. I'm just thinking, should we move on to tips for preparing for implementation? Because I think, a lot of people are going to want to hear about this. And we have had a comment come through from Eddie who says, we understand that feedback from people represented such as relatives is key. That may be hard for some providers, but under the single assessment framework needs more thought. And when we were at the care show, Mark and I did a talk very similar to this. And I think one of the things I would say about preparing for this implementation is nurture your relationships. Nurture your contacts, nurture your relationships with your relatives, with the people that you're supporting, with your local communities, with your stakeholders. Keep those relationships strong. Make sure that you're telling them that you're not just a feedback positive organization. Actually, their feedback is shaping the way you do things. As a provider, it's annoying when people ask for our data. We fill this capacity tracker, do this, do that, take this data from us, blah, 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 blah. And actually, a lot of the time, we don't know what happens with it. And we become disengaged because we get fed up with providing all this information and nothing happening with it. And it's the same for relatives. It's the same for people we support. They give us feedback. And if they don't see anything changing and they don't see what's been done with that feedback, they themselves will disengage. And, chances are we'll be not seen as responsive. We won't be seen as a well-led organization. So it's really just about empowering the people we support and their circles of support to go, you are shaping what we do. Same with your team. Listen to them and really listen to them. I always say one of the hardest things about being a manager, about being a leader, is keeping your mouth shut. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. But if we're inviting our teams to give us the feedback and we're asking them for their sort of opinions, we sit there, we take it, even if we do not like it, we take it and we go, I really, really value this. Let me go away and think about it. And I'll put some thoughts together and we'll catch up again at X date and let's go through it together. I think if we respond straight away, we're automatically telling them we haven't listened and we've been wanting to say something ourselves. And actually, they're saying what they want to say, but we've already made our minds up. And that, again, disengages our team. If we can provide that really nurturing culture, then when CQC are coming around and talking to our teams, they're going to give us the most glowing reviews because they believe in us, because we believe in them. And it's not a sense of making them feel like they're valued. They will be valued. So it's around nurturing those relationships. It is difficult for homes that have got very few relatives, but you'll have advocates, you'll have IMCAs, you'll have a ton of other people who are involved in these people's support. So it's really just spending time to get to know the families. Have your relatives meetings once a month. Do it with wine or cheese or biscuits, or have them themed. Do them at the same time as your resident huddles or your resident meetings, and bring them in on some of the trainings so they can see what's going on. It's really now about building and nurturing those relationships. We should be doing it anyway. They're just making it key to this part of the feedback now. And I think, Mark, COVID changed a lot of this, didn't it? This idea that relatives weren't involved as much and other stakeholders had concerns, and it's just time for us now to take control and to provide that support.
No, definitely. And just on the subject of relatives, I think we've got a really good relationship with Care Rights UK, formerly known as Rights for Residents. And I think they've openly said, if you want advice or you've got problematic relatives, reach out to them, because actually they've got a whole network of other relatives that can give you some kind of steering and some kind of tips on actually how you can win people over. Or if you're thinking of implementing something, you can run it by them and they'll kind of push that out to see what people think. So I think really utilize them, because I think they're a really good resource. And I think sometimes we overestimate the power that relatives can have. So
I've just seen a comment in the chat saying they can't hear us. If anyone's having sound problems and can't hear us, and you can just see my bearded lips moving around, please pop in the chat to say that that's the case. And I will try and have a look in the background to see what's going on. But what else, Mark, can we be doing now to prepare for this implementation? Because this is the first time we've been given a definitive date. We've usually been given a season or a quarter of the year. But we have November 21st. We have a date. So it's going to be very hard for CQC to go back on this now. It's there in black and white. It's been printed. What do we do to prepare?
Well, somebody's just put they can hear fine, so that's reassuring. I'd like to think after 50 minutes if people can, but yeah.
Everyone's just sat there looking at us.
Just look at us. Yeah, I like to think that it won't be pushback. I mean, we might see it pushed back from the other regions. I think it will definitely go live in the south. I think before we move on to tips for preparing, I just wanted to touch on some things that I think we should all avoid as providers. I think the first, and I know there are consultants that are commenting, is do not go and pay a ridiculous. I've seen somebody that's charging £1,000 for them to give you a webinar, very much like what we're doing tonight around the changes. Please save your money. I'd much rather you gave that £1,000 and split it between your staff team, or ordered in, pizzas or something. It will go a lot further than you're going to pay. If you do want to pay a consultant, it would be to do a mock inspection so you can currently see where you are sat against the framework as it stands. because that will give you actions and things that you can implement, which the CQC will really like, that actually you've taken that initiative, that you've learning from kind of things that aren't in place. I think burying your head in the sand is something you cannot do. This change is coming whether we like it or not. So yeah, don't bury your head in the sand.
And sorry, Mark, just on that, and we don't want to do anyone out of business. That's not why we exist. It's not to say don't go and spend your money there, but the information we're providing you tonight, the information that's on our website, is all that's out there. You know, the information is out there for free. We just want to collate it for you, because at the end of the day, we pay our fees to the CQC. We pay extortionate amounts out in wages and everything else, and it's only getting harder year on year on year. We just want to give you this to get you head started. If you feel like you still need a consultant and stuff, fine, go and do it. Absolutely fine. Mark and I would love to do it. We just don't have the time. But yeah, just really try and utilize trying to find stuff for free and get your teams involved, because this should be a team thing now. So task your unit managers, your deputy managers, your senior leaders, your senior carers, your nurses to go out and all go and find a piece of information around the new CQC framework. Just task them to go and have a look. You know, give them an idea. I want you to go and find out something about SAFE. Go and find me something around the new quality statements. And during that process, they'll probably end up reading 15 web pages, learn a load more themselves, and then bring it to you. You'll see information you might not have seen. A lot of people now are on LinkedIn, and there's so many great people on LinkedIn sharing so much free stuff all the time that chances are you can get all your answers by doing that. You've involved your team. When CQC come around and they say to your team, what do you know about the CQC framework? They'll go, actually, my manager tasked me to go and have a look and read about it, and I found out this, which I thought was really interesting. Big tick. Big, massive green tick. Really, really helpful.
And I think once you've done that exercise, download version 2 of the guide. So the reason I originally put that version 1 guide together was long before Adam and I even started thinking that we were going to do a show on the CQC updates, was because I really struggled to kind of fathom all the websites and the resources that are out there. And for my own team, I really wanted something that I could just send and say, this is everything all in one. And that guide has just grown over time. So actually get them to go out and do some homework, like Adam said. So they've got to kind of get used to that CQC website and find their way around it, but then give them this guide, because I like to think it was written for my staff as kind of a very easy to read, easy to digest tool that you can just implement. I think one thing we should be very clear about is that the CQC want to keep us updated. So they've got a lot of ways in which to stay updated. So they've got their provider bulletin. So you can sign up for their newsletters, and they kind of will email you when there's any changes or updates. You can find them on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. They've got a podcast. They are on medium.com with their blog. They've got the publications. They've obviously got the webinars. The webinars are going out every month at the moment. So do keep an eye out for them. They're also available on their YouTube page, so you can stay up to date. I think for me, you probably want to start looking at those quality statements and the key questions within each of them and kind of getting your head around them, and then building kind of on, just choose one, start with maybe SAFE, and then start collecting that evidence. What I would say is you want somebody that's going to collate that evidence for you, that's going to be quite thorough and be able to kind of store it. If you're a paper-based service, in a document somewhere, do not put it in Polly Pockets, because you're going to have to take it all out of that to scan it over to the inspector if it's needed. If it's that you're using digital systems, you can obviously store that on the computer, pull off reports and bits and pieces. But yeah, just get somebody that is very thorough and kind of methodical to store that for you. Yeah, I think, what else can you do?
I mean, I'm a huge believer in getting our teams involved in this now moving forward. This is the first time the first time in a long time that the framework's changed so drastically. So I'd be utilizing handovers. Utilize your handovers. Start talking around the quality statements around handovers. Share your lessons learned at your handovers. You know, they should be being shared there anyway. Theme your newsletters. So the newsletter this month is all around SAFE. What are the quality statements? What do we do as an organization? If you use a newsletter for both your team and your relatives, ask for feedback in that newsletter. How safe are we? Do you think that we're meeting these quality statements? Utilize it that way. I think really sort of cross-referencing with the people we're supporting and the people who work for us, or work with us, I should say, is a definite yes to what we should be doing. I know CQC don't want us to, but prepare for your next inspection using Chloe's and the quality statements, because chances are, if you're going to get inspected in the next couple of weeks and you're not, even if you're in the south, I'll say even in the south, no, even in the south, next couple of weeks, you're going to be inspected against the old framework. Now, chances are they're not going to go out and inspect anyone in the south on the old framework with the new one coming in so soon. But really, please don't just give up on the Chloes now. We need to make sure that we're sticking with those and that we're preparing them. Start collating your evidence yourself. Change the way that you do your quality monitoring. So you do your surveys with your team and your relatives, absolutely fine. Start sending surveys to your care home teams, or your GPs that come and visit, or your district nurses, or your social workers that keep coming, and ask them how they think you're doing. Ask them if they've got any sort of suggestions or any feedback for you. It's going to help build your relationships with them. It's going to give you a completely different point of view. And then when you collate all that data together and you do your trends analysis and you do your data analysis, you've got some really differing sort of points of view to go, oh, this person thinks we're doing it like this. This person thinks we're here. This person thinks we're here. Who have we not got in touch with? So when CQC come around and they go, how do you monitor your quality internally? You can go, actually, we go and ask everyone. We ask everyone how we're doing, and we build those relationships up this way. There is a really good spreadsheet on the CQC website, and I will try and bring it up while I hand over to Mark, and it breaks down how they're going to use the methods of evidence collecting against the quality statements. Now, again, I can't guarantee you that this is going to remain the same. I think when I bring it up, you'll see that there's some areas that aren't really covered by some of the evidentiary sections, Mark, are there?
There is. Let's bring it up in time. While you're pulling that up, I can see in the comments there's talk around kind of which areas it's rolling out to in the south and where next. The CQC haven't confirmed after the south where they're going. There has been a lot of talk whether it will then go to London and follow. There's also talk about whether it will just go straight up north to do kind of north and south comparisons. So they have confirmed in the south the regions that's going to be. So they are Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, Cornwall, Devon, Dorset, Gloucestershire, Hampshire, Kent, Oxfordshire, Somerset, Surrey, Sussex, and Wiltshire. So I think we kind of think of the south as kind of like a little area within the country, but actually that's really kind of vastly ranging, because I mean, Kent and Sussex to me are about 20 minutes away, but Devon is like 4 hours away from me. So actually it's going to really span that kind of whole part of the map.
Listen, I used to think Torquay was in Japan. So any questions coming in tonight around geography and rollouts, please don't ask me. I don't know where anything is. I still rely on my sat nav. I moved house in January and I still need my sat nav to figure out where I'm going elsewhere. So I'm going to bring it up. Eddie's just come into the comments as well, saying around the accessible information standard for getting feedback will be key as before. And do you know what? This is huge, the accessible information standard. It is massive with CQC at the moment. They want to see how we're doing things. They want to see how we're making sure that all of our information is accessible as possible. And I'm a firm believer we need to move away from terms like, do you have any special accessibility needs? Do you have any different accessibility needs? I think what we should be doing is just understanding and asking people, how do you access information? I've spoken about this a number of times now, but I think if, as an organization, if we can just say, how do you access information? We remove any of that normacy, any of that status quo around accessible information. And actually, we make people feel a bit more inclusive. We make them feel a bit more included in it. I would be suggesting things like your policies, your procedures, your newsletters where possible. Can you convert them to audio? Can people listen to them? Can they, listen to them on a website? Can you get them saved on an audio cloud somewhere and get QR codes for people to scan them? I used to do that with my newsletters. It takes away the need for a care team member to sit down and read something to someone who might not be able to read it themselves. It gives them that dignity and it gives them that privacy again, and it gives them that independence. I'd also be looking at easy read options where you can do. I think as an organization, it's always best to have your most important stuff in easy read. Even if your service doesn't support people with learning disabilities, chances are you'll get relatives who have got some form of learning disability that they, will have to access information in a specific way. And I think it's just really good practice, really, really good practice. People with cognitive impairments, they don't want loads of words. They don't want huge paragraphs. They want really easy to understand stuff, easy to digest, and easy to follow. So having stuff in easy read format, I think, is a way forward. And your website, make sure there's an option on your website. We don't have one yet on the Caring View, and it's really bad, and we'll put one on, don't worry. That you can change your fonts, you can change the text size, you can change the color of the website. How are your websites going to be accessible for people? Your social media posts. If you're going to be putting information up on social media, don't just rely on an image with loads of text in that image, because actually you can't right-click that and have it speak out because it's a JPEG file. So if you're going to put an image up with loads of text on your social media for your service, follow it up with the actual information in the image, in the body of your text as well. So people who do rely on text to audio services can still partake in that, and they can still experience that. On your photos, on your websites, on your social medias, give them an image description. So when someone's on your website and they right-click an image and it asks, for a description for people who are hard of sight, it can say, this is a resident enjoying their day outside gardening. So they can too experience all of those things that people who haven't got sight issues can experience. So I'm so glad you brought that up. AIS, huge at the moment. Even choosing your fonts. When you're choosing your fonts for your service, choose fonts that are really accessible for people. Do some research around what fonts are the best for people who have, who are neurodiverse, who have got dyslexia, who have got anything that might affect the way that they read and assimilate information. Have a look at really inclusive fonts. I went on a bit of a side tangent there, Mark, and I managed to get the spreadsheet.
That's okay. While you've been talking, we've had a question come in around the accessible information and some more information. We did do a show on accessible information. I'll try and dig that out in a minute and pop it into the comments so you've got the YouTube link. So yeah, this is the evidence grid. Somebody has asked if we can post a link. This will be on our website by the end of the week. So just keep checking back on www.thecaringview.co.uk. I need to just add that this grid is something that, when I spoke earlier about the CQC Citizen Lab, this is something that was shared on their Citizen Lab as a potential. So this isn't something that they've 100% said they're going to use. But I would imagine that it's going to look very similar, if not this, when it does roll out. When I've looked at this, I really quite like it because I think it gives you things to really benchmark your service against. And as a tool for a provider not knowing where to start, actually, this gives you somewhere really firmly to start. I know there's been questions around if you're a service that is registered against personal care, but actually you're a shared accommodation, which one would you use out of these? The CQC's answer is that you would use the personal care. So whatever you are registered against is the one that you would use. And there obviously are going to be services that fall in between. And yeah, I mean, I work in one. We are a reablement service, so we don't fall under any of the categories that the CQC have, but we would obviously have to fall to the home care one because that's what we are registered against. So yeah, we'll get this up on our website by the end of the week for you all to have a look at. But I think this is a really good tool to download and play around with.
I think for me, it's a really good tool. It's a really good sort of benchmark for us thinking, right, so they're going to look at people's experiences for all of the domains of safe under the the domains of safe and the quality statements. I'm just confused as why there's nothing in outcomes, and I don't get it. Because as social care providers, we're all about life outcomes. We're all about impact. We're all about how is what we're doing affecting people's lives. How is the stuff we've implemented reduced falls? So I don't get the outcome evidence category completely, if I'm honest, because at the moment, as it looks, as it stands, they're not using outcomes to assess any of the quality statements. Am I reading it wrong?
No, so there isn't. So on the last CQC website, and I've been collating an FAQ list here that I've seen on kind of on the CQC social media and their responses and on their webinars. So this is one question that came up time and time again, is that there isn't outcomes for some services, especially in social care. Why is this? So the CQC's response was, where there is a consistent and national data set, such as mortality rates, admission to hospital, vaccination data, this is what they are feeding into the outcomes. In social care, where national data sets aren't currently in place, the CQC will prioritise people's feedback with care satisfaction rates, etc. The CQC have said that if providers feel like there are any other forms of outcomes, that they will welcome that during kind of that data collection. So I'd imagine for this, the evidence grid there around kind of the home care one, they're probably going to start using data from Home Care Association, from Skills for Care, because obviously they've just become an official body, haven't they, for data. So I'd imagine we'll see a lot of our kind of benchmark data driven from them. And again, I think that'll be quite handy, because at the moment we can go onto the Skills for Care website and we can benchmark actually where we are. You can put in your postcode, you can put in kind of how much you pay your staff, all of those little bits and pieces, and it'll pull that through. So you can really benchmark. So yeah, I think if there isn't an outcome box that's highlighted blue or yellow, and I don't even know if there's a key about what is blue and yellow, having a look here. But I think if there isn't a box highlighted, play around with some of the data that is out there. Oh, there's the key. That's out there at the moment, available on the World Wide Web. So go on to Skills for Care. Obviously, they have that accreditation, and then you can benchmark your service against kind of a national and a local standard. Adam has also just shared the accessible information link into the comments.
And if you don't want to watch the episode on accessible information because you've not got the time, it is available on our podcast site. If you go onto Spotify, we've actually got a couple of playlists set up. And one of the playlists is Rewind, where we put some of our really sort of great conversations that we've had on YouTube, and they're available in audio format only. So when we look at the gap analysis tool, Mark, which you can download from the website, for me as a provider, I know we've got this as a sort of tool to see how they're going to be using those evidence categories to monitor us. I'd love, and I think this is my approach, and my approach is going to be probably different to many's. I'm probably going to try and fill my own evidence in each evidence category for each quality statement, so that I know that I've observed things, that I know that I've seen those outcomes, that we understand those processes, and I'm really just trying our hardest to get as much information as we possibly can do. Because at the end of the day, CQC will inspect us in the way they want to regulate us. We do our service every single day. We live and breathe what we do. So actually, maybe we should be using these evidence categories for absolutely everything. I might try this, and it might be a catastrophic fail, and I might go, actually, no, it's just not possible. I can see why CQC have taken this approach. I might go, actually, I'm really glad I did this process, because I've learned a lot more about my service, and I've learned a lot more about how I can start observing better and how I can monitor the quality better. But yeah, really great tool. I do think this is on the CQC website, and I might be lying, it might not be, but either way, we will pop it up onto our website, hopefully by the end of tomorrow, for you all to be able to download and utilize.
Yes. What was I going to say? Somebody in the comments, Eddie, has put about triangulation within care planning and feedback. For example, somebody with a visual impairment, how do you get them involved? Completely agree. And I think that's one thing we haven't touched on, is the CQC have said that they're aware that there's fictitious, people that leave Google reviews. If it's a staff member that's been dismissed or have left under a cloud or something, there might be people that whistleblow anonymously, and the CQC are aware of that. So they will be utilising data from other sources and from yourselves to triangulate that. So actually, it isn't just a one-sided view.
Yeah, and I suppose this is like within our care planning now. So a lot of our care plans allow, especially if you're using digital social care records, allow audio to text. So are we allowing people that we're supporting to be involved in their care planning to a point that actually they can speak into that care plan to go, I really want to be supported like this in the morning? And we're not typing it out for them, they're saying it to us. Are we being able to provide them with a text-to-read version of those care plans? Are we allowing them access to those digital social care records when we're not in the room? Have they got their own login? Have they got their own access? And it's really talking to your digital social care providers to go, these are the needs of some of the people I support. How can your system support me? They provide you a service, you pay for it. Ask them. They might not do anything yet. I use a DSCR which hadn't got some of the things we needed, and I know we've asked loads of questions in the innovation hubs for them, and lo and behold, they've happened because they want to make their service the best one out there. So have a chat with your DSCRs and see how they can support you further. The only thing I would say, and we touched on this the other week around data security protection, is if you are using digital services and you are putting things on the web and you are utilizing other services to help you with your accessible information, and you're putting in potentially sensitive data, always make sure you take off their privacy policies, their information governance policies. Have conversations with them about that, how that data you're putting in is going to be used. And if at any point you feel uncertain around the protection of the data that you're putting into a certain website or a certain tool, don't stop and try and find another way. And evidence that. Download those documents, download those email conversations that you're having with your digital providers. So you've got the evidence that you've asked the questions and they've responded and they've given you the information you need, because CQC will want to see that. And it's just good practice. It helps you when you come to do your DSPT. But yeah, it really is. And in your care planning, spoke to daughter, spoke to son. They were part of this care planning process. We all discussed this. This was the feedback they provided, and this is how we're going to monitor the outcomes at the next review. Just documenting it like that to show that they've been involved in it. So when the family say, oh, I've not been involved in anything, and you've got that documentation to say they have, hey presto. If they say that I was involved in all the care planning and you've not documented that, equally, why not? And that's a really great thing to sing and shout about. One thing I would say around getting prepared for the next framework and getting prepared for your CQC inspections as a whole is don't set your benchmarks too high. So I'm thinking training. Yeah, training, everyone wants to see a training. They all want to see a training matrices, and they all want to see green across the board. They want to see a training perfect. Don't sit there to yourself and go, right, I'm going to make sure that 95% of my team have received their training, and this is going to be my benchmark, and I'm going to write it into policy. Chances are you'll never be at 95%. And if you're not at 95% and that's what your target is, and you've told CQC that's what your target is, even if their threshold is 80%, they'll benchmark you against the 95 that you want to achieve. Don't set yourself up to fail. Set yourself to a score that meets their needs, maybe a little bit more, and then exceed it. Exceed your targets. Look so much better. Don't say to CQC, oh, my DSCR is great because it gives me 24-hour access to care plans, and then not act on daily care notes. Make sure you're doing 24-hour checks on your care notes every single day. What were the care notes like yesterday? Did everyone receive repositionings at the right times? Have we met fluid targets? Are notes being written in that person-centered way? You've got the access at your fingertips. So make sure that the ways in which we monitor care planning and care records changes alongside that. Otherwise, again, you're setting yourself up to fail. Tech is great. These sort of innovations are great. We just need to make sure that we're using them to the best of our abilities.
The only other thing for me, I'm very conscious of time and people.
I know, it's gone so fast.
It always goes so quick. We
do love the sound of our own voices, though, don't we?
One thing, and you won't be able to use this against the quality statements, but if you Google self-evaluation tool guidance, care inspectorate, I came across this and I shared it to my LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago. The care inspectorate have this self-evaluation tool guidance that I actually found really beneficial to read. Some of it is similar to what the CQC look for, but actually what they do is they really break it down into kind of the quality, the key areas. There's like tools that you could easily adapt into your own service. It talks about kind of, I'm just scrolling through it. It's 16 pages long. But I think it gives you real kind of things that one question I always see is does anybody have a questionnaire for people? Actually, it gives you examples of questionnaires. It gives you that self-evaluation tool, the core assurances, the worked example and tool and bits and pieces. So definitely go and Google that. Yeah, I think most of what Adam and I have spoken to tonight, and you've probably seen me glancing and I'm kind of trying to respond to comments and bits and pieces, but actually I've been reading the guide that I know we've spoken about a lot. All of the information we've spoken about tonight is in the guide. You'll be able to watch this on catch up. Talking of guides, completely different subject, but there is also on our website a menopause guide. So it was Menopause Awareness Day last week, but we did put together a guide for that day that has kind of gone through. It's not just Adam and I writing it on behalf of females. It did go through 2 other people, and we utilised the menopause sessions that we'd had on here with Miss Menopause and Jackie McBurney from the NHS. So again, Adam's obviously shown you here, there are so many free resources. Everything we do is free. If there is something that you're looking at on that right-hand side of that screen there, just drop us a message. We'll either have something that we can pop up on the website and link you to, or if we don't, we'll try and find one or signpost you to somebody that does. We'll get this version 2 of the guide up on the website. I say by tomorrow, but I'm looking at Adam because he's the one that's going to do that. Definitely by the end of the week, so you'll be able to download that. But yeah, please do use that. Utilize it with your team. Yeah, and if you've got any questions about it, then please, do reach out to us. But yeah, if you've got any individual kind of feedback. But yeah, just a reminder that the guide is only as good as today, because something could change tomorrow. So use the guide, but also keep up to date with the CQC as well. So make sure you're registering for their social media, so you're getting that and their newsletters.
I agree. I just agree. Sign up for everything. If it's free, sign up for it. It's going to benefit you at some point. So top tips: sign up for everything that's free. Try not to spend so much money on it, because everything is changing as the landscape changes, as the rollout goes out, everything's going to change. So save your pennies, get your stuff for free. If you are going to have to pay and you're going to have to go to a consultant, write down the reasons why you want your consultant. What do you want that consultant to be able to do to impact your services, to impact yourself, and to support everyone that you're supporting? Visit our website, grab all our free documents. They're there for free. Don't give up on the Chloes. Let's focus on those quality statements. Utilize your teams. Rachel, I think it's a great idea, has said, I think the frontline teams will be able to make great suggestions on what evidence they can collate for personal outcomes too. 100% agree. And I think when we come down to the care planning side of things and utilizing our frontline teams, I know we have our registered managers and our care managers, our general managers, whatever titles we want to give them. The people who are supporting the people who use our services probably know a heck of a lot more about them than we do. Utilize them in the care planning process, in the care reviews. Really utilize them and say, right, how does this person like to get up? Or if that person that you're supporting is going to get involved in that care planning process, have one of their key workers with you at that same sort of time, because they'll probably relate really well to them. So frontline teams, hugely important. Watch back this episode. It is free to access. It'll just sit on our YouTube page now. You can go to our website and watch it on our website, as well as listen to our podcast on our website, grab our free resources from our website. I would just say, and this, I know this sounds like a shameless plug for ourselves, Mark and I don't earn money from this. We don't take a penny from this whatsoever. All the money that we receive through sponsorship, again, just goes to paying for everything that we can do for free. So it pays for our podcast, it pays for the chat show, it pays for our appearances at trade shows where we bring our learning outcomes. And that's one of the things we're keen for at these trade shows, is to bring learning to them. So not just your normal sit around conversations and debates and you go away and you think, well, that was nice, that was interesting. We really want to bring those resources and tools for you. If your care managers go into these care shows, you really want to walk away with things that you can go and implement in your services. And that's what Mark and I want to do. So it sounds like we're plugging ourselves. We are, but we're only doing it so that you can get all this information for free and that you can support yourselves and we can learn as well. So anything at all, get in touch with us, www.thecaringview.co.uk. Get all of our resources on there. Subscribe, send us an email directly from the website. Huge thank you for everyone joining us tonight. Give us feedback on any of our CQC tools. If you've got anything really great that you use and you want us to feature on the website as a free resource, please send it to us. We'll feed it back onto the website. We'll reference you. We'll link to your LinkedIn pages. We're not precious about information. We just want to elevate, educate, and celebrate all things social care. We've gone over nearly half an hour, Mark. Can we close out the show? I know people are dying to go and watch MasterChef, because I know I am. Or is it Bake Off tonight? It's one of the two. You've sat with us throughout Bake Off. I mean, that's how dedicated you are to social care.
And Big Brother. And Big Brother. People are giving up.
Got Big Brother's back. I forgot. We have some. Yes, I was gonna say, but I won't.
My mind went there as well. No. Yeah, like Adam said, please do drop us a message via the website. If there's any questions you've got or anything, please do head over to YouTube, because that's where all of our episodes are originally set up to. So you'll be notified of any new ones. We have got some exciting shows coming up before we close out. So we've got a conversation next week around what social care strikes could look like. We've got one around how we can all use our social media to influence social care in the positive image. We've got artificial intelligence in social care coming up, a discussion around sex and intimacy in care, and obviously, like we spoke about earlier, succession planning. And that takes us all the way up to kind of the end of December, really, which is kind of scary. But yeah, we're obviously live every Tuesday, and all of our sessions are very much like this, just breaking down the conversation into bite-sized bits. But you can catch all of our previous episodes on YouTube. So yeah, do go find us and subscribe.
Definitely. And that does close out the show for the year. We will be taking a bit of a hiatus over the festive periods into January. Mark and I need to recoup and recharge our batteries. This is, very intensive for us. However, we are planning out the shows now for next year. And I actually think we're already into the first couple of months of next year with the content that we're providing. If you do want to get involved, you do want to be a part of the show, you do have things that you want to come and talk about, or you're knowledgeable about, or you've got experience and then you want to share that, get in touch with us. We'll grab you on. This isn't a platform for me and Mark. I know tonight's been very much us talking, but we discussed that we wanted it to be intimate tonight, and we just wanted to focus on our experiences. But more often than not, we like to just sit back and listen. So if you want to be a part of the show in 2024, which sounds crazy, just get in touch and let us know. www.thecaringview.co.uk. I will put this chat show up onto the podcast as well, so there will be an audio version for this. Again, this will probably be later on in the week or the beginning of next week. But then you will be able to catch back and listen back on this. But use this with your teams as well. Put their minds at rest around the whole CQC process. If you're part of a group, use it for your group. We're not shy about this information being taken. Take our documents off the website, take our logo off and share them as your own. We really, really don't care. As long as you can utilize it to benefit yourselves, we've done what we want to do. Go and enjoy your evenings. Go and catch up on Big Brother. Go and catch up on the Bake Off or whatever you do. Mine is MasterChef, and I'm sure there's professionals that's been on tonight. Please stay safe. Don't worry too much around the whole framework change. We'll get through this together as a sector. But until then, thank you very much, and we will see you live, as always, next Tuesday at 7:30. Take care.
See you later. Good night, everyone.